play. Oh, so one moment. Wait. Oh, I forgot something else. Sorry, bit frazzled because I came back a bit later than I anticipated from cut. I'm here now. Sato. All right, good to go. So together and state on my thoughts on talking about. If I think the advice that I'm giving is relevant, I maybe phrase something in a way that wasn't very coherent, I'll expand. I probably have a laugh or two sense, but audio isn't great. Oh, that's because the audio isn't. Second. Um, how's that? The audio better now? My oh um question. I'll have to. Yeah, sorry, I'm just reading some. Page. Well, I will. The that that's somehow better. I turned off the supposedly malfunctioning suppression. That is that better? Still cutting in and out. Seems like on my end it's still cutting in and out. Alright, I will give you some cutting in and out. Copy or clipping or any. Or if you can hear noise in the background, that would also not be ideal. If we have to do what I'm saying, that would be best if you fit in and out. That's fair. Perhaps it is the noise gate that is the problem because it is making me 0 when I should not be 0. Yes, that is definitely the problem, I think. Can you hear me now? Okay, so I think I just need to adjust the settings on my noise gate. I'll add in the noise suppression again. Is it the noise suppression? Is it still working here? Am I cutting in and out or am I coherent still? Sorry about the tech issues. I hope, okay, it's good now. Okay, I would have hopefully found that myself if I had time, but unfortunately I came home a little bit later than that. Okay, so let's make sure I can see the chat here, which I can't. Ten minutes in. Thank you for all. Well, I edit this out in post, yeah. Except YouTube doesn't let me edit things. It deletes chat if I do. But it's okay. You only just came in and it seems okay now? Okay, good. All right, well, let's get started. As I said before, but I'm sure you didn't hear me properly because the audio wasn't working properly. We will be watching through this old video of mine where I am setting telephone. This is the first video that I released on my channel, which I released several months, if not almost a year before I actually started releasing content. So it's from an old time before my views on this stuff developed a little bit more. But I've been wanting to do this. I had been wanting to do this channel since November 2021 at least, probably before then. So I'm glad I got started, and this is where I started. So we're gonna watch it and probably laugh at me for some of the things that I say or do, but it will be fun. Okay. Well, I hope you don't have internet problems throughout, Robert, but I hope you and your family are safe. Anyways, let's get started. This is Memeristor, and I am gonna share with you today some of my process in setting puzzles. Now, some of the things I want to talk about is more general, but
I did want to sort of go through my process and give.
And can you guys hear the video itself? And is it at a decent volume? Is also something I should know before we get really into it. It's okay. Okay, we can hear the video.
Sort of an introduction
It's
on
definitely a worse mic.
how you can get started with this and how you can get ideas, because I think getting ideas is the hardest part of this. Now, I'm using a program called fpuzzles, fpuzzles.com, made by Eric Fox, and I'm using a solver, a Sudoku solver, and setting tools by Ranks. And this allows me to disconnect and reconnect. It has a bunch of options in here.
Yeah,
Turn that off for
it allows
now.
you to disconnect and
And
reconnect.
one of the options
That's
is
its
very
main function.
useful. It's called True Candidate. And usually a setter or a proper setter with proper knowledge will tell you true candidates is
I guess I'm
great
not a
for
proper
ending your
setter.
puzzle. You can look at, for example, solution count of these things. So if I just put a bunch of digits into here,
I should revise that a little bit. I mean, so the what I mean to say is that true candidates can be pretty useful at the end of a puzzle to find a clue that will limit the possibilities of the possible solutions dramatically, and then you can find a quick resolution to your puzzle. But it can be also used for a lot of other things. I'm sure that a proper setter would have lots of suggestions for how true candidates can be used, some of which include like knowing what can go in various regions if you're doing a chaos construction with cages and such like that, or finding the right clue, or looking at the effects of one clue versus another. Like how does it affect the grid rather than how does it affect the grid in terms of deductions that you can find. Just looking at that quick, oh, this is how this is going to end up working, is really nice to quickly just see, is this something that I want to do right now or not, which is a useful thing to do with true candidates for sure.
I put
Not really sure why I'm
the
filling
X's mean
the
that
grid
it's
with
no solutions
given
found.
digits.
I just put a bunch of digits in. Eventually, we will get
Probably should have
changing
done
of
something like this before so that I have a good
colors.
example to reference instead.
And as you can see, it shows you every digit that can go into that spot. You just put a bunch of these things in. We'll eventually close. Okay, here we go. So as you can see, there's some little grayed out digits. There's some slightly less grayed out digits. So you can see what happens when I put a 9 here. I get some progress. If I put a 3 there instead, I get a little bit less progress. So we're
It's a
looking
weird looking
at,
three.
look at the solution count right now. There's 46 solutions. So I put a 9 there. I get 4 solutions. I think the lowest ones, the gray ones, are integer, or sorry, digit number of solutions. So 1 to 9. Whereas
I'm not sure if that's actually true or not, but I think it's just that the grayed out or lighter colored digits are the lowest number of solutions, whereas the green ones are obviously one solution, and then the blue ones are more solutions. I'm not sure if it's really just 1 to 9 or solutions, or if it's just a low number of solutions relative to the rest of it. I'm not
a
sure how it's
4 would give
programmed.
you 11 solutions. That's not an integer number.
Yeah,
Let
it
me
could
just
be around 50.
reload that.
We'll see here what the 4 is showing because it was 11 for that.
I turned it off. Um,
Yeah, so the 4 isn't really any different than any of the other colors unless I'm blind. So I think it's less than 10 or something will give you a different color, and then the less solutions there are, then it will be a even lighter color. You really can't tell the difference between, say, that 8 and the 9 next to it that well, but they are a different color, I think. Maybe they're not. Anyways,
So putting an 8 here or a 9 here, I think an 8 would give you less solutions, 3 solutions. So that's why when I have a 9 here, this 9 is slightly darker than this 8. And if I put a 3 there, I have like 3 solutions or something like that. Same as the 8. And some of those, if I can get it back to where it was, have green on them. And that means there's exactly one solution. So if I put a 4 there, it solves it. This does not mean that a human being could look at this grid and solve the puzzle. That's not what that means.
I should have really prefaced this by saying that it might be the case that a human being could look at this and solve it. It could be humanly solvable, but if it wasn't humanly solvable, then knowing that there's one solution doesn't necessarily mean that it is humanly solvable. All that means is there is one solution. It could be humanly solvable or it couldn't be. We're not sure.
What it means is that it has only one solution. So if you guessed and checked for forever, you would find only this one solution. Now, one thing you can turn on to sort of,
Me trying to turn
or
on
one thing you can do to see if
logical true candidates, but realizing that that would be way too confusing. So I'll explain logical true candidates in a different window here. Okay, so if you turn on logical true candidates, so this run right here, and then we look at the true candidates, I'll go back to the screen. We look at the true candidates, then we can see that there's some red digits as well as green and blue digits. And the red digits mean that there are no solutions with that digit there. So for example, in this case, we have 2s and 3s in here, eliminating 2s and 3s out of here. And obviously this is a 1, so it can't be a 2 or 3. So 2 and 3 have these 3 places in this box. But in this box, 2 and 3 can also go only in here. And one of 2 and 3 has to go over here. So if one of 2 or 3 has to go over here, so one of 2 or 3 has to go in here. But if both 2 and 3 are over here, say if this is a 4, 5, or 6, if both 2 and 3 are over here, then this has to be a 2 or 3. So this can't be 4, 5, or 6. But what it's saying is that you can't logically determine that that's can't be 4, 5, or 6 because there's not a logical way to do it. There's if I put it in 4, 5, or 6, then it'll have no solutions. That's what the computer is saying, but it's not necessarily a logical thing because we just logically explained why you can't have a 4, 5, or 6 over here, which would push both 2 and 3 over here, and push 2 and 3 into these two cells. But if we set this as 4, 5, or 6, oh yes, of course, the chat is hiding everything. So we'll restart that. So 2 and 3 in here, rule 2 and 3 out of here. So if this was 4, 5, or 6, there couldn't be any 2 or 3s in here, so there would have to be a 2 and a 3 in here, which would put 2 and 3 into these two cells. But we just said that this would be a 4, 5, or 6. So if this is a 4, 5, or 6, it also has to be a 2 or 3, which doesn't work. So the solver is saying that the red digits, these 3, can't be in the final grid because they would lead to no solutions, which is what the option include logical candidates says. So these can't be logically ruled out, but they can be logically ruled out by a human being, but not by the computer. It can't logically be ruled out. It's sort of it's not the best setting, to be honest. But it's a good way to see if your classic Sudoku can be done using, say, just the solution path button in FPuzzles. That would be sufficient. All right, I'll include the chat back and we'll return to the video.
you can get through the puzzle without guess and check is turn off contradictions and then turn solution path. Well, solution is found. So they didn't use any contradictions, just simple uh, hidden singles, naked singles, and
So in this case, include logical candidates would have given us a solution. Yeah, yeah.
bam. That is a solvable Sudoku. It's a little bit more complicated for variants rather than classics. Classics, if you're just setting something fun, something like that will be probably not very fun. But
Probably do not set classics like this. It probably will not be very fun at all. In fact, uh, with classics, the solution path and the include logical candidates, if you're not doing anything crazy like a firework or something like that, then it's going to give you the actual immutable thing. But if you're working with variants, there's a lot of things, and we'll see an example of this later in the video, I think, where there are things in variants which are very obvious to human beings, but not very obvious to a computer. So if you're saying only include the logical candidates, sometimes it just doesn't understand that some things are logical, even if it would have to put it in to get it. Computers are very dumb. Anyways, we'll
it
go
will
back
be
to that. Hello,
solvable.
Isabella.
But the reason I'm talking through this and the reason why I'm talking about this is because one thing that I like to do when I start a puzzle, put these back, get rid of solution count, is to
One thing I didn't mention here, and yeah, 11 tickles. Uh, even things that are that we would miss basic Sudoku things. The computer would get the basic Sudoku thing, but it wouldn't get something a little bit easier, like there are no fives on German whisper lines unless you told it, for example. It would consider, unless it was in the code, it would consider no fives on German whispers to be bifurcation because you'd need to put a five in to notice that it's broken, right? That's not something super advanced, exactly. So unless that was coded in to the German whisper solver, it wouldn't understand that. Anyways, um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, one thing I didn't mention is why did I turn off the solution count right then? Well, we're gonna start a puzzle from the beginning, so I don't include the solution count because it's not going to be ever close to one or zero or or anything. It's not going to be helpful at this point to have the solution count on, even with true candidates. So turning it off at the beginning just reduces the load, the computing time. So something useful to know. Hey, Navaria, how's it going? And hello, 11 Tickles, welcome.
turn on true candidates right away. This is something that people don't say not to do. And I like to just put things into the grid. Just play with it. Because what I'm looking for is not a puzzle. I don't want to make a puzzle with true candidates. I want to find an idea with true candidates. What do I mean by find an idea? Well, when you start setting a puzzle, often very hard to think of any sort of idea or concept that you could put into the puzzle. And these things start to come more naturally as you progress as a setter. But at the beginning, it can be very challenging to think of anything really. One thing that I thought of, not
One thing I didn't. Yeah, I do like the blue numbers, Ambrose. You're right. That is a reason to turn it on. One thing I didn't mention, but don't feel like you need to come up with new things every time you sit down to set something. It's okay to iterate on older things. I'm not sure if I necessarily strictly approve of everything that uh, I'm saying here. Ranks solver is insanely fast, but it is also a client-side Super Rabbit, so it depends on what kind of machine you have. Um, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I don't think the advice to turn on true candidates at the beginning is necessarily bad, but I don't think the way that I presented it here is exactly what I was trying to get at. The reason why you might turn true candidates on from the beginning is just to throw some random stuff into the grid and think about what the random stuff is actually doing to the grid, and then maybe you come up with an idea, and it might not even be related to the stuff that you just randomly threw in the grid. It's just sort of their numbers are moving and they're changing, and uh, things are reacting to what you're putting into the grid, and it can sometimes spur ideas. But what I'm doing in this video is just putting an idea that I already had in, and for some reason I have true candidates on. So it's not exactly what I'm trying to say.
While looking at trained
Yeah,
candidates,
exactly.
but just in general, is something like this. I had asked in the voice chat of the CTC if anyone had any good puzzles with between lines and Renban.
That's
And
such a
that's
bad way to
because
ask
I
that.
was wondering specifically if anyone had utilized this before. So you can sort of play with this to see what will happen. I can put a 1 in, and that immediately puts a 4, 2, 3, 2, 3. Now I know this would happen. This is by design. But if you didn't know that this would happen, if you didn't have this idea yet, and you had, for example, gone, oh, well, Renban and between lines, what if I just make it so that there isn't many digits between them? There's only one. Well, that doesn't work because the digits between them, so these two, if I put
Yeah, that's another point. Rockrat Zero says, most importantly, you can see if you broke it for some reason you didn't think about. And Mike says that he usually thinks of break-ins in the shower and then puts them into the grid and then turns on true candidates after the break-in is done, and probably sees like maybe it does something that he didn't even expect it to do, which is honestly one of the best things about true candidates, which is that sometimes things that you don't really expect to happen, and then you're like, oh well, I'm not gonna make that not happen because it does happen. I don't know why the heck that happens, but I'm definitely not gonna try and make that not happen. Like say you just randomly got a 4 in box 5. Oh, I'm not gonna put a 5 in the place where the 4 is. I don't know why that's a 4, but it is. So I know that. Just can put that in the back of my head for now. And then also True Candidates is good for like playing around to see something that you sort of know how it works. How does it work exactly? Like putting in different digits to just see how it works. Up my microphone a little bit. Okay. Is that better? I am very quiet. That's slightly better. I don't know what constitutes very quiet. Now you are less quiet. Expected. Okay. Okay. Should be up to tad more. Is this like in comparison to the video? Like, is the video much louder than me or something? Past meme was louder? Okay. Because current meme, I obviously I can hear myself very well. And past me sounds quieter than me. So I didn't think it needed to be changed, but obviously it's different. I asked my cats and they said the same thing. So, all right. Hopefully that's good
Remember,
now.
let's go back to the other example with the 1 and the 4. So 1 and 4 on either end. 2 and 3 are between 1 and 4 numerically. If you put your on the top of your keyboard, I actually do use this for setting lots of variants. If you look at the top of your keyboard and then you cover over the digits 1 and 4, you'll notice that between them is 2 and 3. Now that is very
I love how I don't even know how to describe it. How carefully I explain that. It's honestly so useful sometimes to just like use your fingers on the keyboard to visualize the sequence, but I just love how carefully I explained that the digits 2 and 3 are between the digits 1 and 4. Very important.
obvious um,
Yeah, I said
because
it's
2 and 3
obvious, but
are between 1 and 4, obviously. But it can be nice to sort of visualize by putting your fingers over various digits to say, okay, these are not available. What are the available digits and how can I arrange them so that there is something between, or maybe you have crop dot relationships. I like to use that as well, consecutive things. You
yeah.
can find this sort of thing by playing around. When you find some
That's actually really useful for me for some reason with killer cages. If I just like put my fingers over the numbers that I don't have, it's for some reason easier for me to see which combinations will work. I don't know.
something that's broken, like
Your fingers are
this
tools.
with the Renman, don't say, oh, it's broken. Better stay away from that. Don't do that. What you should do instead is consider if I change it a little bit. Well, first I would say understand why it's broken. This is a good
Oh no.
exercise. So let me know what you guys think. Why? Well, not let me know because we aren't talking to each other. I'm talking to you. But why is
Yeah.
connecting a Renban, which
But
contains
now we're talking to each
a
other, so
set
let me
of
know.
consecutive digits? So if I
I
had
like I like how that
Renban,
for some reason now I realize I haven't explained the rules to either of these variants. So I should probably do that.
I don't know. I have a Renban,
I don't
and then
know.
I put a 1 on the Renban. The other two digits have to be 2 and 3. If I put a 5 on the Renban, then you could go 5, 3, 4, 5, 4, 6, or 5, 6, 7, and they can be in any order. So the 7 could be over there instead, or either one. So it doesn't have to be in order. It just needs to be consecutive sequence. So if I put a consecutive sequence, so that's 3 digits in a row, connected here, clearly that doesn't work because you need at least 2 digits between them, but there is only 1 possible digit between them here. So if instead we put the 2 possible digits between them on a Renman that is connecting them, I know that these digits that connect them and these digits that are on the Renman connecting them must be from the set of the same digits. So if I had 1 and 4,
Me
these would be 2
trying to
and
be
3.
Simon.
If I had 2 and
I'm gonna
5,
pull out my
these
Scrabble
would
bags.
be 3 and 4, etc., etc. And the interesting thing about this is that these have to be exactly 3 apart. Usually with between lines, if you have 2 distinct digits on the between line, the ends have to be at least 3 apart. But these have to be exactly 3 apart because the Renban says that they can only be at most 3 apart, and this says they have to be at least 3 apart. So now we can say this digit, whatever this digit is, it has to appear in one of those 2 cells, and it can't appear in its same row. So these 2 digits are the same digit. These 2 digits are the same digit. This digit must be in here as well. This digit, this digit, this digit are all from the same set of digits. So we can just label them up. And we can see that pretty easily. If we put a 1 here and a 2 here, we'll get that arrangement. The colors match.
Hello, Akia. I think it might be a good thing to mention here because this setup obviously has 4 different boxes, and I found the yellow and the green in all those 4 different boxes. And that's not very space efficient, but it's very like logically efficient in the sense that I'm using this deduction to get as many logical deductions as possible, essentially, in a short amount of time. But I think for some reason earlier in my setting, I really always wanted to go for these very logically efficient things. Like one deduction gives you like 7 digits or something, which is a fun thing that happens sometimes. But I think there's a lot of value in space efficiency and making sure you're not cluttering things too much or you're not using too many areas at once. I think Turganis is a really good example of someone who knows how to put something into a grid that isn't taking up too much space, too much freedom from the grid, but is doing a lot more than it seems in conjunction with other things. Anyways, what was the difficulty I was aiming for? Uh, I don't think I aimed for any difficulty here, to be honest. I don't know. I think the end result was like maybe like mid 4, I would say. Uh, maybe low 4.
And the reason I like using the true candidates at the beginning here to sort of think about what my idea for the puzzle is going to be is not that I want to make an entire puzzle or a break-in revolving around something that the human couldn't see. I want to see how these things are working. I want to see how these things are interacting and what sort of interesting things happen. For example, the next thing that I might put in is these. I really like this arrangement. Okay, the next thing that I like to do.
I didn't really think about what I was going to say about the arrangement at all. I just was like, this does interesting things, and I know that it's going to do interesting things. I'm just going to put it in there, and then, yeah, I like this arrangement, which is kind of a dumb thing to say, but honestly, it's just from playing around with putting in a digit into the cell that I'm currently highlighting and then throwing some random ranbands in and seeing what kind of looks interesting. And this arrangement looked interesting. So I didn't show all that, but I probably should have shown all that because it would have shown you that these ideas don't just come, oh, I like these 2 horizontal lines. I don't even know what that means. Whereas what actually happened was I put in like 20 different lines and was pulling them out and putting them in and thinking about and probably like set like 3 puzzles by accident, and then I was like, these 2 horizontal lines seem to do interesting things.
Or that I was thinking about doing here is just sort of seeing, okay, one thing that you should notice right away is that 1 and 9 have been eliminated from here. 1 and 9. Why might 1 and 9 be eliminated from here? And this is where interesting things start to happen, and you start to think about, why is that the case? And this is maybe a dangerous path to walk down because you don't want to be looking at things like why are 1 and 9 not in here? Because the solver doesn't know to look for that. But what you should be doing is saying, okay, I know that 1 and 9 are not in here. What kind of restriction can I put in this area that will utilize the fact that I know that in the finished puzzle, 1 and 9 will not be here. It might be accidental that the solver figures out that 1 and 9 are not in here, but you know that there is no 1 and 9 there, so we can use that.
I love the conclusion. So, we can use that after the beginning. This is dangerous. We shouldn't use this. Don't use this. Oh, well, now we've come to a conclusion. We can use this. Perfect. What I should have said was you can't assume that the solver will know that there's no 1 and 9 here. The human solver. So we need to figure out, is it deducible that there is no 1 and 9 here? And will the solver even look for that? Is that something that they'd be thinking about? Probably not, because you're usually not thinking, can this random digit not go in this random cell? Not usually, unless there's a reason why you would be thinking about that. So I don't think it's great advice. But what we do want to think about is how could we maybe point to that if we're going to use it? Or how could we maybe save the solver from having to think about that? How could we maybe skip over the step where there is no 1 and 9 there? Because we're not going to lean towards a clue that wants to see a 1 and 9, like wants to have a 1 and 9 on it. But maybe you do want to lean towards a clue that does want to have a 1 and 9 on it. Because since you know that there is no 1 and 9 there, and if that is deducible, then it would be interesting for a clue that sort of, it seems like there wants to be a 1 or 9 or both in that clue, but there can't be. So then it leads to more deductions and huge restrictions and awesome deductions. Sorry, I just hit my mic. Whoopsie. So, yeah, so basically disregard most of the advice that I'm giving right now in the video. Not me right now. The video, past me.
But let's think about why 1 and 9 are not there. And you want to think about how easy is it to figure out that 1 and 9 are not here. That is the most important thing to think about when you're thinking about these things. How easy is it to recognize that? So if 1 is here or here.
Okay, so sorry to pause it right again immediately, but that is an excellent point. You do want to think about how easy is it to determine if this is not there, and how might the solver deduce that. But the worst thing you could do to determine how easy it is try it. If you're trying to eliminate a digit, and that often happens if you're relying heavily on true candidates or a solver, if you're trying to eliminate a digit, the worst thing you can do is bifurcate and try that digit in that place. You will see, most likely, you will see why it can't be there, but how easy that part of it will always appear easier because you're putting it in. The solver most likely just won't be like, I'm just going to place this random 1 here, see what happens. Why on earth would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. So what you shouldn't do is this. And I think I did this a couple times in this video. Don't do that if you're trying to see how easy it is. You can do that if you're like, I don't understand this at all. I just want to see like why it breaks, and then I'll be like, that's ridiculous. But you cannot, you've sort of not allowed yourself to answer the question, how easy is it, if you're putting it in.
Here, then we'll get something like this. Maybe 1 and 4. Okay, so 1 can't go on here, right? So one of these two strings will be 1, 2, 3. Let's just say it's this. But that breaks this sum, because 2, 3 have to be between 1 and 4. Okay, so let's put it down here. Well, that also breaks a cell, this one. So what we can't have is 1 or 9 here by symmetry. So it would rule out those from being 1 or 9 and put 1 or 9 in here, which would rule out either all the options from that cell or that cell. So 1 or 9 cannot go in there. We know that for sure. What about here? Can a 9 go here and a 6 go here? Well, then these would have to be 7 and 8. So you couldn't have 7, 8, 9 here. You couldn't have, or this one is also 7, 8, so you couldn't have 7, 8, 9 here. So since you have a 7, 8 here and a 7, 8 here, you need to put 1, 7 in here and 1, 8 in here because you can't put both. But if you put an 8 in here and you put a 7 in here, we need to put a 7 with the 8. We can't put 8, 9, nothing, right? There's not 3 digits that are consecutive that you can put there if you can't use 8 and 7. But you can't put 8 in here. So you have to put 8 and 7 in separate things, which is not possible. So one.
So that sort of gets to the idea of, or that sort of shows what's, I don't know, intended. I don't know if that's the easiest way to show this is sort of shown in that explanation. But a different way to get to this same point is to sort of color all 4 of these. And this is the final puzzle, but we'll just use the clues that are available to us right now. And oh, we should I thought I had automatic. Oh, I do have automatic scene switching on, but it's not activated. So there we go, it's activated now. So it will actually switch the scene when I change tabs. But anyways, so the key here is to realize that there's a yellow on the bottom and a green on the top. So then these 4 digits in box 5, the red, yellow, green, and blue, are 4 consecutive digits. And green and yellow will have to be consecutive with each other because they're the ones between red and blue, and red and blue, green and yellow are a sequence. The 2 digits between a 4-digit sequence, those will be together. Just use your fingers on the keyboard. But if green and yellow are sort of neighbors, like 2 and 3 are neighbors, then red is neighbors with yellow or green, doesn't really matter. And then red has to have another neighbor because it's a 3-cell Renban. You're trying to put them on 3-cell Renbans in box number 6. But we need 3 digits, and yellow has a neighbor green and a neighbor red or blue. We know it's red actually, but whatever. So then we need red to have a neighbor. We need it to have a digit below it or above it. But 1 and 9 don't have a digit above or below them. So we can't use 1 and 9 as red or green. That's exactly what Zeta found when he did his solve of the puzzle, which is a lot nicer to see than whatever the heck I'm doing in this.
1 and 9.
It's the same argument for both red and blue in this case. Whereas for whatever I was doing here, it's completely different for both of them.
Cannot
the 7,
go
8 sort of gets
on
the
either
idea,
of
but,
these.
yeah.
And in my opinion, that is not a trivial deduction, but it is not an impossible deduction.
That's another point. So right now I'm saying that it's not a trivial deduction, but it doesn't seem like it's impossible. But what I might say if I was looking at this again and setting it from the first time, I might say that feels like something that has a better way of explaining it. Because there's often more than one way to see the same deduction. This one, we know there's another way and it's easier than whatever the heck I did there. But it sort of, there's times when it feels like there isn't another way, and there's times where it feels like there is another way. But sometimes you just need to look at it in a different lens. So if you find that something feels too hard, you might be looking at it the wrong way. So again, think a little bit harder. Might come to you, might not. You might throw it away, even though there was another easier way to do that.
To make. It's probably not where the solver is looking unless we're pointing them to there. Which brings us to our next thing. I am going to put an X. Actually, I'm going to wait because what I actually did when I was first looking at this first pattern, and we're gonna get.
I'm glad that I stopped myself from just putting the X in because it's good that I explain why I did that.
Get off of this pattern because this is something that I have looked at previously earlier today, and this is sort of how I started. But we're just going to look at this is what I did. I went, okay, so 1 and 9 can't go in there. That seems like a good restriction. What sort of restrictions are there when we put a digit in here that is not 1 or 9? Let's put a 2 in. That's pretty restricted. We get some nice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's put a 3 in. What happens? Okay, seems like no matter what you put in here, all of these things are determined. Let's put a 4 in. Okay, same sort of thing. 6 in, same sort of deal. 7 in, awesome. 8 in, awesome. So no matter what we do, no matter which value we choose of 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, we get a very restricted grid, which is great. You want a restricted grid. You don't want something that is not restricted, that isn't going to allow the solver to make deductions.
Again, I'm sort of prioritizing this logical efficiency over space efficiency. Uh, Clogging in another clue into box 5 is, I guess, a little bit space efficient, but it seems a little bit cluttered, to be honest. And it might be more of a preference thing, but I think I would be less likely to do that nowadays than I would be back in the earlier days. Doesn't mean it's wrong or anything, but it's just there's different ways of viewing setting puzzles, and some ways are more trying to get the most out of every single deduction, and some ways are trying to make things not too cluttered so you have more room to think about the deductions and how they work together.
Now, what digit did we not use? We didn't talk about 5. 5 allows this to be 2 or 8 because those are both 3 different from 5. 2 or 8 is annoying because then you can't figure out these and you can't start to make deductions about these. So I want to get rid of 5. Now I can do that in a number of ways. I could put a 5 down here and that would be interesting, but that puts a 5 over here. That's not really what we were looking for. We wanted something a little bit more interesting. Maybe if we put a 5 over, well, we can't put a 5 in either of those or a 5 in either of those. So 5 has to go on one of these, but I hate, and I will not clue on a Renban. I hate doing that. I don't want to clue on a between line. If I was to put it in a given digit, it would be somewhere away from all the clues. So instead of that,
This part makes me laugh a lot because I hate when people say things like that without much of a basis for why. I mean, I sort of understand that if you're trying to not telegraph where not to start the puzzle, you don't want to put like a given on top of a clue because that's definitely saying start the puzzle here. There's something interesting about this. If there's only one instance of this. But right now I'm building the break-in, so putting a given digit and a clue on a break-in part of the grid is actually not that bad. It might make the puzzle significantly easier, but it's not necessarily bad, and I probably would have had a lot less trouble with the end resolution if I had just maybe not a 5 because that wouldn't resolve the parity and then I'd have to use other given digits or thermometers or something like that. But yeah, there's technically nothing wrong with it as Max says, but I think I just hate when people are so opinionated about things that there's no basis for, really. Because there's nothing wrong with it technically, but I don't know why I was so strong-willed about this. Just do whatever you want. Put clues on top of other clues. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, don't tell other people that they're bad for doing that because it does make fun and interesting puzzles because it's unexpected.
I want to think about, okay, where can 5 not go? And my first thought was on an X. If I put an X, a 5 cannot go on the X. So let's try to put an X. Oh, well, that's interesting. Let's just think about that. So if there's a 2 here, we get a 5 here, we get a 1, 2, 3 up here, and this can't be an 8 because of that. If there's a 3 there, you can put a 7 here, which is nice. The 4 there, you can't
Just
put a
nice.
6 here because 6 will be on the line. Not the same for 2. 7, you can put a 3 there. 6, 4 will be on the line in that case. So 8 and 2 seem to be the outliers in which if you put an X here, 8 and 2 are the ones that are a little bit finicky. You're not sure about them. So for 4 and 6, we're just going to ignore those because 4 and 6 will be on the line and you can't put it there.
No, I guess I'm not really explaining what's going on with this. So this is a little bit why it's dangerous to be using true candidates because, for example, 4 and 6 are not quite as trivial as I thought. Because 4 and 6 can go with 3 and 7, right? That's the two that I was looking at it with. But 4 and 6 can also go with 1 and 9. Well, I'd already determined that 1 and 9 are not on the ends, but the solver might not determine yet that 1 and 9 can't be on the ends. It's actually quite a bit of work to do that. So when they look at the ends of here, they'll look at them and not be able to eliminate 4 and 6, not be able to eliminate 1 and 9, not be able to eliminate 2 and 8. They could only eliminate 5. So when I'm looking at this here, it's a little bit dangerous to be using true candidates right now because I'm not really thinking about it in the right mindset, I guess, in terms of the solver.
So we're going to put this X in, and we notice that there's a big restriction. And on here, we're also going to put that X in, and we're going to think about it. Think as if you have just opened this puzzle. This is what is shown. So we know that there.
Yes, 11 tools. Setting puzzles is a lot like just putting some numbers in and seeing what happens, and then thinking about how those numbers could work in the future when they are for real instead of just some guess or some random crap that you pulled out of your yeah. Anyways.
There's no 5 in here. We know that these digits are the same. We know that these digits are the same. We know that these are 3 different. If we do a little bit of work, we can figure out that this can't be 1, 9. So what can it be? If you now,
I'm glad I'm doing this early and actually trying to solve the puzzle rather than just using true candidates for a long time. Because this is normally what you would do if you just open something up and you don't understand it, you just explore and think about it.
now the next thing you might think is, okay, can it be 4, 6? And if it's 4, 6, this is a 7 or a 3, whatever. Okay, so if
Whatever.
we do 4 and
Totally forgot what
7,
it was.
then we will have to have a 6 between them, which will go there. 6 and 3 will have to have a 4 between them, and that will go on here, not there. So you can't have a 4, 6, which is, I think, pretty obvious.
Again, if you're trying to see if something's how easy it is, putting it in is not really going to tell you much of anything.
Now, what about 2 or 8? That is the weird one. Let's think about 2 for a second. You put a 2 here, and you put an 8 there. Then these obviously have to be 3 and 4. So this cannot have a 3, 4 on it. So you could go 1, 2, 3. Or you could go something high. And of course, that same logic applies over here because we have a 3, 4. And we need to put, okay, so this is the interesting part. I think this is the same logic as the 1, 2. We need to
Not
put
really.
3 on one of these and 4 on the other. And we can see that pretty easily because the yellow will go down here and the green will go up here. So if the yellow was 3 and the green was 4, this would be our arrangement. But if 3 goes down here, it can't have a 4 or a 2. So that won't work. We can't put a 3 down here. We put a 3 up there. It can't have a 4 because this will be a 4 now. So we'll have to have 2 and 1. And the 4 will obviously have to have 5 then. And it can't have a 3, so it has to have a 6. And
See, if I had just said way earlier, 3 goes on one, 4 goes on the other, so which one of the one with 3 or the one with 4 does the digit 8 go on? Because 8 is in row 5, so it can't be in the middle. It needs to go on one of the red bands, but it can't go with 3 or 4, so 8 can't go on anywhere in box 6. That would be much better, right? But I didn't say that for some reason. So here we are, and it's easier to see if we sort of fill in and think about a sequence of digits. So if we think about the sequence of digits, red, yellow, green, blue, as being these 4 digits in an order, because we know they're in that order. Red and yellow have to be together because down here we need one of blue and red to go with yellow to be consecutive, and blue is obviously in the row, so it can't be blue, so it has to be with red. So red and yellow are consecutive, green and yellow are consecutive, blue and green are consecutive, and then orange and purple are the digits above red and below blue. So this cell, what can this cell be? Well, it's either going to be purple or orange, but it can't be orange because orange is consecutive with blue. And if you add to 10, you can't be consecutive because then x and x plus 1 together make an odd number, and 10 is not an odd number. So there's no situation in which x plus 1 equals 10. So this must be pink, which means that pink and blue are 4 different, and the only digits which add to 10 and are 4 different are 3 and 7. So this is a 3, 7. So that's an easier way to realize that it's 3, 7 rather than ruling out 2, 8 in this ridiculous fashion.
here we reach our problem. If you do this, you're forced into this situation. And there's an 8 in here, and that can't be an 8. So we can presume.
But again, when you're trying to figure out how easy something is, don't put it in. because it'll just make it seem way easier to see that it doesn't work once you put it in. What you should do instead is think about what what the things in the grid mean and where does row 5 column 5 go in box 6. Well, it has to go in one of the lines. So then what does that mean? And eventually I would have gotten there if I had just thought about things rather than trying to put things into the grid and disprove them. You're too focused on disproving something that you know to be true from true candidates is not a good way to go about setting. You should be thinking as if you're the solver, as if you're trying to solve this puzzle.
Assume that if we put an 8 here, we have the same sort of thing, and that this must be a 3, 7. Now, that seems a little bit bifurcated.
Yeah,
Not too optimal of a
but it's not bifurcating if you don't bifurcate.
sort of path with this. So what we're going to think about when we're setting the rest of this puzzle is how we can make both the 1-9 deduction in here and the 2-8 deduction a little bit easier, is what we're going to think about.
We don't end up thinking about that, I don't think, but that is something that's useful to do, is to note down when you think a deduction is a little bit maybe too difficult, or you're not sure if the deduction you've thought about it in the right way. And then later on, you can either see if you can think about it in a different way, or if something you can add later on makes that step easier. Because often that is the case, that something that you add later on makes that step easier. Although you don't want to get into a situation where you're too cluttered and you can't add anything. But
the 4-6 deduction seems good. It seems like it's the right level.
It does seem
A
good.
3-7 will have to go with a
actually
4-6, of course, and this will have to be a 4, 5, and a 6. At this point, when I have something like this, it's good to start to think about what implications are there of this. I could look at this and start to work with implications on here, but I would say that gets into the realm of you should be setting with this sort of view of, okay, so I have this. What do I get from that? What is the solver looking at next? So we can look at, I would probably say the next thing to look at is that this has to have a green and this has to have a yellow. We will have to have 4, 5, and 6 on these lines. The 5 will have to go away from either the 4 or the 6. Now, the easiest way to set something like this with colors is to choose a parity, because the parity is interchangeable. I could just change the parity back at the end if I really wanted to. So in this mode, I would be choosing a parity of, say, 3 and 7 there. This would have to be a 6. And I would continue from there, from that point, solving as if this is fixed.
now, that is some advice. I mean, that is not a bad thing to do, I would say. You can still do that for sure. But I often find myself these days questioning why on earth you would keep the parity so arbitrary for so long in the solve. So I often find myself just trying to disambiguate the parity as soon as possible so that I don't have to worry about whether or not the solver is going to put in one parity and then change it back later, or if I have to do that, or if it's different between me and the other and the solver. Like, there's just way too many things to think about. Just probably just figure out a way to disambiguate the parity in sort of the beginning of the mid solve, I would say, is the best time. At the end is a more common, it seems, suggestion, but I would prefer the parity to be resolved in the mid solve these days.
Now, it might not be fixed for the solver, but if it isn't fixed and it's a big problem when we test solve, then we're just going to add maybe a thermometer or something that will disambiguate it earlier than later, because maybe it won't be fun.
It's not.
So in this case, we can remove 6s from all of those. And then we can look at this and say, okay, so this will not have that digit on there. So the 4 will have to go on a different one from the 5, and it will have to go down. So it will have to have a 3 on it. The 4 will have to have a 3 on it. So we know that there's no 4 or 5 in there. So there's either a 4.
Yeah, I mean, that is the leading. So that is what most people would say. My so, but I mean, what is the point? It's just the same stuff, but with colors instead of digits. So, does it really change the logic to give them labels? Not really. So, if you can make the disambiguation of the parity an interesting step, but have it in the mid-solve, I think that's more interesting than having sort of the last step or the second last step be the parity disambiguation, and then having them color the entire time. Because, I mean, it shouldn't be boring to disambiguate parity, it's part of the puzzle, but if you put it at the end, it's most likely going to be boring.
4 there or a 4 there. But we know that the 4 Renban has a 3 on it. So it can't be there. It has to be up here. And it has to go all the way down because the other one has a 5 on it. So we get to this place. And that will be a 2, 3. Okay. We have this. We have a 2, 3 here. And we're probably thinking now.
Although, again, please just do whatever you want. If you want to leave the parity disambiguation to the end, like, just do that. Puzzle setting is supposed to be fun, so, do whatever you want.
What sort of deduction might come next? Where will they be looking? I would probably be looking in this column. Oh, I would probably be looking at the green and yellow, which we have now determined to be 4 and 5 in this order. Now we know if we want to open up maybe a new copy of this puzzle, now we know that regardless of what sort of parity we have, we're actually going to undo here until we were before the parity. We know that regardless of what the parity was, so if I had chosen, let's say we chose 3 and 7 here instead, with a 4 here, and then this would be a 5, 6 instead. Now we need to put a 5 and a 6 onto different Renbans in here, and the 6 will have to go with a 7 because it can't go down with a 5. So the 6 can't go there, so the 6 will have to go up here with a 7, and this will have to be 5, 4, 3, and we know that this therefore is a 6 and this is a 5. So regardless of the parity, we know that this is a 5. And that this 4 and 6, this will have a 5 and a 4, 6, 7, and this digit will be on there. And we're actually just going to change that to be yellow setting so that will set with me. We're just going to change this digit to be yellow because that digit will have to go with 5 because the green digit is up here. And the green digit will be either 2, 3, 4 or 6, 7, 8 for the green red man. So in here, we will always have a 1 and a 9 and either a 2 or an 8, depending upon what green is. And then over here, we will always have a 2, 8, 3, or 7. And this is important. This will always be a consecutive sequence. Notice how this is 2, 3. This will be a consecutive sequence. We're going to get rid of the every time.
It's not that
I
important,
always
but
press
important much later.
I always press Control S instead of Control A. We're going to get rid of those because we're also going to get rid of the other color. We don't need it. Setting 2. And now we're going to continue with this. Or perhaps we should continue with this because this has the parity undetermined. Let's continue with this right now. And when we
After
have
saying that
3
I should
variants,
determine the
we
parity,
need to
then
sort
I
of think
decide not
about
to determine the
what
parity.
variant are we going to lean on? What variant are we going to leave for now? What sort of things are we doing? So we could either lean on the between lines, which do get quite cluttered, the Renban, or the X's. I've already made a puzzle which leans heavily on the X's and the Renbans, and I have another idea, another small idea for an interaction between Renbans and X's. For example, so my other puzzle was called Horseshoes and Hand Grenades, and it used the fact that if you have an X in a box with a horseshoe or a 4-cell Renban, then I've just realized that, oh no, this doesn't apply. I'm silly. But so imagine that this had a 1 on it. If this had a 1 on it, then you would have 1 with 2, 3, 4, because that's the only way to fill this Renban. And then this X will have no value because you can have a 6, 7, 8, or 9 on it, but you can't have a 1, 2, 3, or 4 to go with it. So
It's the same idea as that one puzzle by Andrew Sakis and Kane Puzzles, where they use German Whispers and 4-cell Renbans to do basically the exact same thing. And I took that idea because it's such a brilliant idea.
and you can also not have a 9 on there for the same reason. If you had a 9, then you could only put 1, 2, 3, 4 on there, not anything else. The thing that I was thinking about was if you have a 2-cell, if you have a 3-cell Renban and 2 X's, then you still can't put a 1 on here. Because if you put a 1 on there, the other 2 cells will be 2, 3, and this could only be 4, 6 both ways.
Both ways.
So that's interesting. Now I'm interested to see if you put a 2 on there, you do 3, 4, but you could still only do 1, 9. And if you did 1, 2, 3, that would be the same thing. If you put a 3 on here, you can escape to a 5. And then you can do 2, 8, 9. And if you put a 4, 6, 4, 5, 6, then you can do a 1, 2, 3 on both with a 7, 8, 9. Okay. That's a little, this is normally what you would do when you you sort of think about, okay, so what sort of restrictions do we have
Yeah, that's normally
here?
what you would do when you set is actually
So now
think
what I'm interested
instead of
in,
letting the computer think for you.
so we know that if we have a 3-cell Renban with 2 X's, we need a 5 on it. So that means we can't do that in this box, in this box, in this box, or of course in this box. And we're quite limited with where we can put the fives. So we can't put fives in any of these cells. So we need to be careful to allow one of these cells. 5. This is interesting to me. This is 2 4s and 6s looking at these cells. So green will have to go in there. So, and actually green will have to go in there and there, sort of a mirror of the fives. So an interesting thing to ask might be if we have a 3-cell Renban, which does this in this box, what, and we have 2 x's, and we have 2 x's, maybe an x here and an x here, I think would force that to be green. What combination can we have here? Notice that there's a 3 7 looking here, and we have a 4 6 looking at these 3. Remember, we can't, if we put a 9 on here, we'll have to do 8 and 7, and now this has to be double 4 6. That won't work. Not least because we have a 4 6 looking at this one. I'm actually going to change that. I want this one to be that way. I do prefer.
Yeah, see, I don't know what I'm doing here, but because the 3 7 has to find a place in the box, and the green is going to take that spot up there, so the 3 7 needed that spot over here. But I think I say something about coloring
I don't
boxes.
like that. I actually don't like that. Would prefer if instead we could do. No, I don't think it's going to work. I'm not being articulate at all. I'm trying to think of a good way to arrange these so that it doesn't. So what I don't want is for this x to somehow convey the meaning that we should be looking at the different x's and what they could have. Well, I mean, we do want them to look at this x, but we don't want them to look at this x until they have more stuff down here. We want to make things just enticing enough. So that is a bad line. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the line we had before is the best line. Or of course its counterpart, that one. So I think we're going to go with this one. And we're going to put x's there and do one there or one there. We'll keep it sort of open. We'll think about it a little bit. But the point is that, of course, you can't have a 5 there. So there's a 5 on here. We know there's a 5 on there. I was trying to get it so that you didn't have to put a 5 on the Renban and that we didn't have to put an X in here. But I can't put 2 X's that overlap in this green because we're going to have to put a yellow on here. So that won't work. So we're going to have to put a 5 in here, of course. And then we can't put a green on this at all. So this can't be 4, 5, 6. Remember when we were going through the options, it was 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, or 5, 6, 7. We can't now put a 4 and a 6 on here because it will not be green, and 4 and 4, 5. And green is 4 or 6. So we have to put a 3 or a 7 on here. And this digit cannot be 3 or 7. So that has to be 4 or 6. So then this will be a 3, 5, 7, whatever digit that is the same parity as this. And this will be that digit. Now we can actually work out that this digit and this digit have opposite parities. If I put a 3 here, I need to put a 6 here, and 4 here would put a 7 here. So this digit and the digit up here are the same digit because this will have the same parity as that. And we actually know then.
I have no idea how I just determined that like really quickly, but I mean it is true. I guess the fact that this digit and this digit are like pretty far away from each other is pretty obvious from the between line. So I guess that makes sense.
That's down there, and that this one will be up there. Trying to use some very calm colors here.
Pastel palette.
We know that this cannot be a 4, 6x or a 3, 7 because we have one of the 3 7s in here. So this, is broken actually. I need to put this x here. Yeah, so why is that broken? Well, if I put that x there, this has to be a 4, 6. This has to be green because 4, 6 can't go in there, of course. But then we have a 3, 7 in here and a 5 and a 4, 6 up here. What can that digit be? These can't have 4, 6 or 3,
Well, it's obviously only 3,
or
7,
7,
and it'll
but
clash.
it
So I'm
can't
just
be.
gonna skip ahead.
So that's why we need to put that x vertical. And now I think I want that there. So we'll move that out of the way. We'll put that as a 4, 6. This will be a 3,
I
7,
don't know who I'm
which
scoffing
means
at.
that we have some
Myself,
kind
I
of,
guess.
we actually have roping here, which is interesting. We have this being a 3, 7 pair, and this being the same digits as there, and this being the same digits as there. And of course, that will mean that these digits are in here and in here. I'm actually going to highlight those. These digits will be in here and in here. Highlight those. Very colorful grid. We know these are pairs of 1, 9 and 2, 8, but we don't know which one is which. We're going to go back to here. We're going to put in what we've done. This should be, so it looks like the logic in here is determinable by, this is sort of the logical framework, and this is the, does it have a solution framework? Physics in here, we wouldn't get a solution right away. It's
Okay, remove all the colors just
with that though. I will have to deal with that though. So we're gonna actually remove
because I put the colors in setting mode,
that's
and
now
I don't like
also
doing
be
that.
down, and
Oh, hey.
parity in here will also be up here. So then we'll also be down here. And of course that will rope in the middle 3 columns. By roping, I mean that if we know that these 3 are the same as these 3 are the same as these 3, so then these ones will go map to here, will map to here, so then these ones will map to here, will map to here. That's what roping is.
And I think I just speed through with the parity determined, just doing much of the same stuff.
What will here? About they just got this 3, 7 pair. They just got a 6 up here. So they might be thinking about the 6's impact in these boxes. Perhaps if you had an X in here, that couldn't be whatever that is, so that would have to be that one. Same is true over here if you put an X in here. We can only put one more X in this row, unless we attach it to these, of course. You put that X there, it would be a 4 or 5 pair. And you would get a 5 down here. If we put that with a Renban, then we would know that the other one was a 6.
Suddenly got louder.
Might be a good little exploration. So let's try that sort of thing. So if we put an X down here, we're now leaning mostly on X's and Renbans. And then we put a Renban here. We know that this can't be a 5, so then we get a 5, 4, 6 pair, or triple, I guess. I guess we can keep the 5 there. 5 green pair. The 5s will align, giving us a 5 down here. 5 could be hidden there. If this was a 3-cell Renban, we would actually know that it's the same contents as this Renban.
I think this is the worst clue I put in the whole puzzle. Because it doesn't do very much of anything, and it really just adds to the potential of deadly patterns in the last 3 columns. Because we have 2 Renbans which have the same contents. That yellow, blue, and 5. So it's really just stacking up a bunch of problems.
Which is the same contents as this Renban. I see something now. What if I put an X here? Let me go back here. So what if I put an X here, then I know that this is the same as that. Label that as, I don't have any neutral colors left anymore. That. I know that this contains the same thing as this one and this one. These ones must be the same as these ones. Use green maybe. You can actually even better say that these ones are the exact same digit. Blue. So blue must be down here because it sees this thing by medium of multiple ways. So then this has to be a blue-purple pair, which means blue does not go with purple.
As in, blue and purple do not add to 10.
Since this one will go in here, these two add to 10. So if I know that one of these two is 2, 8, then I know that one of these two is 2, 8. In fact,
Since the blue and the purple can't add to 10, I know
I
that
knew that
one of
before.
the blue and purple is 2 or 8, so then I know that the top one is one of 2 and 8, which I knew just based on the fact that the columns also sum 10 because of the roping.
I know that one of these is 1, 9, and one of them is 2, 8. But if I have a 2, 8 in here, and then a 2, 8 in here, this has to be 1, 9. Okay, that makes sense.
All I'm saying is that there's a virtual 2-8 pair in row 4 with the roping 2-8 in the columns. One of row 4 column 4 or row 4 column 6 will be 2-8, and there's a 2-8 on the Ren band in box 6, so the cells in box 4 and row 4 cannot be 2 or 8.
So I know that this is 1-9, right? I said that this can't be purple because these dominoes, or not dominoes, but these two cells have to add the 10. And if I had 1-9 down here, those don't add to 10 in here because we'll have either 2-1 or 8-9 or something like that, which don't add to 10. So we know that this is not purple because purple is in here. And this is purple, so it's not blue. So this is a 2-8, this is a 1-9, this is a 1-9, this is a 2-8. We know that this is yellow or whatever. Now we know that purple is aligning in these two columns. So purple will go down here. We know purple and yellow are down here. We know blue and green are down here. We know that this is yellow, blue, and green. This is getting very colorful. I'm thinking we might leave the colorfulness till the end because I do, 4619, I do really appreciate a very colorful puzzle.
A man after Zeta's heart. As I'm saying, I don't really see the point of making it colorful. I think I should have added a disambiguating or like a clever resolution of the parity earlier on because it's starting to get a little bit too cluttered, and adding more Ren bands and X's and between lines, those aren't going to resolve any parity. They're completely parity independent, so.
Oh, look at this. This is green. Oh, we have that on the other screen, don't we? This is a 2-8. This is a 1-9. Now we know that yellow's not in there. Actually, know that green is down here. We know that blue is in there.
I
We
feel like I'm
know,
watching a Grockle solve or something.
we might know something more about 3s and 7s. That does nothing. Literally nothing. So we're not going to add it. See, this is why sometimes I like to set with true candidates just in the background because I don't want to put the Renban in here. Have I been coloring with setting mode on? Oh my word. Okay, well it's fine. We'll just solve in setting mode like an imbecile. But see, I don't want to put the Renban in here and then have it so that the solver, or the solver as in me, has to go through the options of this Renban and think about them when there's nothing defined. And I often see this in puzzles where there's just random clues that don't really do anything.
You know, you often do see them in puzzles where the setter is relying too much on a computer solver because the computer solver does something to make a previous clue obsolete, and you didn't actually logically deduce that, so you don't actually know that it's obsolete. So, you know, don't rely too much on true candidates. It's not going to save you from a useless clue. It happens. And it's also okay to have a useless clue.
Maybe just for symmetry, but they're quite distracting.
They are distracting, that's for
They
sure.
are indeed. So kind of interesting with this 4 and 5 and 6 in here. And we know that if we could have yellow in there, actually. We knew a little bit more about yellow in this box. We actually do know it's in there with the blue, 4, 6, 3, 7. We know blue is somewhere up here, and that. So let me just good lift this. This is 4, 6, and then this is 3, 7. This is only 3, 7. If we were to attach an X to it, perhaps going this way so it's not as obvious.
That's not as
This
obvious.
part of the grid is very cluttered though, so I don't think I want to do that. I will come back to that if it changes.
What
Put
changes?
yellow here and the yellow there. The yellow will be there and form a pair, which will make this 3, 7.
But that's if it
That
magically
3,
becomes less
7.
cluttered,
Okay.
yeah.
Hmm,
See, at this point, I really should just add like a
not
given
really seeing
to
a
disambiguate the
whole lot
parity.
there. Sorry.
I normally edit out my yawns if it's a pre-recorded video.
It's a little bit hard to see through these colors, so I'm actually going to go back to this one, put in what I have here. For example, we could link the parity, putting a Renban. So by putting a Renban here, for example, we could link the parity of whatever this is to green. And we know that this has the same parity as that. So we can sort of link the parity together by putting a Renban there.
So I'm talking about linking the parity together. That's because the 1-9s currently they're colored, but they don't have any relationship to the sequence that we've built up because they're completely independent of it. So if we link the parity of one of the pink or purple digits to green, then we can create a more cohesive and consistent and rewarding ending by having all of the parity disambiguations happen together, so they're all related to one another. Uh, but I think we ended up adding more clues that would do that anyway, so maybe this clue that I'm adding isn't super useful.
Or we could do the other way around. No, we couldn't. I was going to say we could put an X here, but that won't work. Surprise, surprise. But that is an option to link the parity of those. Okay, so this is, so between lines is telling me to look at this. Because if I connect something across there, if I connect 3 cells across there, we know that it has to be 1, 9 and not 6. But do I want to connect 3 cells across there? Maybe I want to connect 2 cells across there, and then it's sort of arbitrary whether it's 1, 9 or 6, 9 or 1, 6. It could be 1, 6 in that case as well. 4, 5, 2, 3. Those can't be 4, 5, so they'd have to be 2, 3. Then that one would be a 4 and a 5. Seems kind of sus. Let me look back here for a second. Let me look at this actually. Let me look at this. If I put a between line right there, is that guaranteed to be 1 node? This will take a while to look because I think, no, it isn't. So if I put,
So the reason why I'm kind of excited right now is because I thought it was almost broken. So I was excited to find something that is really close to being broken, but isn't quite broken, which was exciting because it's actually quite cool when something is close to broken. It ends up being more interesting for some whatever reason.
put a 6 on the end, obviously the other end has to be a 1. It's be a 5, 2, 3, like we said. So maybe what we do is we make this a between line, and then we make an X. If we put 6 of the way, that
And
the
that's
4, I don't
exactly
think
what we do.
this is 4 part, I think. Yeah, okay. That's really enticing.
Sound like a bird or something.
Does this provide any link between, say, these parodies?
No.
Perhaps if we could, no, I don't think it does. Don't think it does. Still considering this Ren band line, 2 cell 1,
To
to
link
provide that
the
link.
blue
Let
and
me
green
think
coloring
about,
to that
let's
that one
put that
node we've
in
actually determined the
here.
order of.
Maybe we'll put it in here actually, just to see what sort of deductions we can get out of that. We did not add. Don't want to forget a clue here. We did want to think about that in this context. So if that is the case, this has to be, we'll go into solving mode, 2 and 1 and 3 and 2 and 8 and 9 and 1 and 1 and 9 and 1. So that can't be a 1. There's a 3 in here. There's a 3 down here. There's a 9 in one of those two.
Avoiding
There's a
clutter in
1
the
right
late game
here.
is what I call this
Yeah,
chapter.
that's what that does.
This definitely does not look like we're avoiding clutter.
Apparently, Also get a 9 up here, I think.
See,
I don't know
this
why.
is the problem with relying too much on a computer solver, honestly, is that I'm thinking about how did I get a 9 in row 7, column 1? And if I just stop to think and realize that at the bottom of column 2, there's an 8, which places the 2 and the 8, which places the 2, the 3, the 7, the 3, and then way later we end up with a 4-7 pair over here, which will give us or a 4-9 pair down here, which gives us the 9. So I look at the true candidates and I spend a lot of time thinking, why do I get row 7 column 1 is a 9? But what I really should just be doing is paying attention to the puzzle itself and what deductions I can get from the puzzle itself instead of trying to find deductions from two candidates. It's not a efficient way to do things, even though it feels more efficient. You see, I'm focusing on that cell for no reason, really. There's no reason to be focusing on that cell at all. Even if I found something, it probably wouldn't be something that the solver would find. So why would I be looking at it as a setter?
This can easily be seen. There's a 2 over here clearly. So this has to be a 3. This has to be a 2. Oh, of course, this is a 2-3 pair. I'm an idiot.
Exactly.
This is a 4-9. So that's not a 9, of course.
And then
This
we get
is
our
a
9.
9. This is a 7. This is a 3. This is a 3. Okay, so that is cool. And not very hard, like I was trying to make it. That's a 1-8. Okay. So now we come to the point in the puzzle where we sort of have to disambiguate the end. So usually it's a thermometer or a greater than less than symbol. That seems so lame, though. Is
Yeah, it is
there
lame. So why are
anything
you
more
trying to do it?
interesting that we could use? An even or an odd when it's about high-low parity could be interesting.
It is sometimes interesting to do that.
But not that interesting. Let me think about even or odd for a second. If this being odd might be interesting, but I really don't want to clutter this area because this is the break-in.
I think just a given digit in maybe say box 3 could have been
So what we're going to
a good
probably do
clue to add
instead of
earlier in
even
the solve
odd,
and getting rid of that Ren band that does no work at
going
all and
to
just does bad things. Could have been useful.
add in a thermometer. And what I usually do is I don't actually add in a thermometer. I usually look for cells. Usually I have more restriction than this, and I have like could be solved soon.
It's because I've
But
created a bunch of
here
deadly patterns.
looks like, so we know that this is consecutive. We know that this is not consecutive. We know that this does not have a 1 or a 9 in it. So if we added an X in here, it wouldn't disrupt the earlier logic, I don't think. But it would tell us, let me see here. So if this is, add in an X right there.
I'm just gonna fast forward because there's
And of
something
course, we
really
would
interesting here.
we still have to get the thermometer. Oh,
So I think right now I just end up putting some clues in and putting some digits in, just throwing them in to see like what is going on, what sort of patterns do we have, what deadly patterns do we have, what does it look like when we add a parity resolution? If we have the parity resolved, do we solve the puzzle, or how
5,
restricted is
6,
it?
7 triples are ruining my life.
Exactly. 5, 6, 7 triples.
We need to somehow
It's because of
deal
that
with
renman I added
those.
in row 4.
Maybe instead, there's an X there.
See, that works quite well because that utilizes this X utilizes this 5 very well actually to resolve all the deadly patterns, which is a surprisingly good clue.
This is what I was trying to get as a 9 here. So perhaps, yeah, you can't put a 2-8 in this turn. It doesn't work,
Just trying random X's that don't
obviously.
work at all.
Hello. This is not in the video, but I'm just going to talk over this part because I'm just playing with some thermometers here. And I actually wanted to talk about
There's a third meme.
the fact that we actually shouldn't be doing this sort of thing to disambiguate our puzzles. And I'm being a little bit silly in this video
Back from the
because it's
future.
already been, I don't know, 2 hours now, and I'm getting a little bit fatigued, and I should have taken a break instead of trying to finish the puzzle right away. What we should be doing for disambiguating our puzzles is going through a test solve without the disambiguation and then saying, is it fair, is it fun to do without disambiguating at the beginning? If it isn't
Future
fun,
past meme is
what you
right.
should do is try to disambiguate at the beginning. But if it is fun, what we should do is that we should try to figure out a way that we have a deduction at some point in the puzzle that would lead to a natural
I just love the chipmunking in the background. Like, I'm talking so much.
progression that would disambiguate everything. This way we can make the disambiguating thermometer or X or odd even have an interesting logic.
Given.
So don't just play with things in true candidates like I'm doing right here. Try and actually go through the puzzle, find where you are, and find what comes next. Thank you.
Absolutely, that should be what you're doing. When I set puzzles nowadays, when I do, I mean, I haven't done it recently in a while, but when I do, I end up solving the puzzle so many times because it's so valuable to get the information of like what the solver is doing and how they're progressing through the solve. And when I solve it over and over again, I get that idea of where they would be, what kind of thoughts they'll have, stuff like that. It's much more valuable than just like playing in true candidates like I am in this video. And I should have taken a break as past future meme said.
Maybe one of these? Oh, that's really close. Okay. That and that. Oh, okay. We have a solution. Now, at this point, usually I just go and test it because
Past meme. Nowadays, I don't usually just test the first solution that pops up in true candidates. I would normally think a bit about how can I make the ending a little bit more interesting to reward the solver for completing the puzzle. After all, the ending is usually one of the most important parts of the puzzle. It's what they'll really take away when they're ending the puzzle. And if you want them to take away other things like the mid solve, it's often best to just make the ending as clean as possible so it really isn't much of the solve at all. If it's a really drawn out long ending with like some horrible tricks and it doesn't even flow with the rest of the puzzle, it's gonna like leave a bad taste in their mouth. And if it's just some dumb thing with thermometers that don't even look pretty or don't work with the rest of the theme of the puzzle, that's almost even worse. So, yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing what I'm doing here.
We have a solution. So, and we didn't use the true candidates for that. We used the solution path with our fair deduction here. So we can try and test solve it. We shouldn't just publish it here. That is absolutely not what you should do. You should test solve it, see where the sticking points are. What's going on? Is it good? Is it bad? Might not be good. And then if it is bad, we'll need to reassess. Okay, so
That advice is at least very honest and well said, because I'm pretty sure Pass meme knows that it's probably not a great puzzle, right, in its current incarnation.
let's take our time with this. We know that this digit is that digit, is that digit, is that digit.
Well,
We know
I
that these
switched yellow and
digits
green
are the
in the test
same.
solve.
We know that
We're not going to watch the test solve. It's quite long and quite boring, but at the very end here, I think I can't figure out how to end the puzzle.
same parity as red, the opposite parity as green. We said these two had the same parity, so yellow would have the opposite parity.
Yeah, so I don't know how much more is
You can even bifurcate to get this.
what are we talking about here? Is this future past meme? Past future meme?
I'm not sure if it's doable, but it's certainly interesting. We're going to actually not do that. We're just going to speed through this part because it's just a bunch of me trying to figure out if you can even bifurcate to get the solution and how easy that would be, and if like where you would look is the right place to look. And it's just not good. It's just not a good puzzle at this point. So we're gonna have to do something different here. We're gonna have to get rid of some thermometers. Now the ones at the bottom, the box 9, I really liked that thermometer. It had some interesting logic, which we discussed. But the other two are clearly not cutting it, or maybe I'm missing something. I know there was a 9 in row 1, column 2 that I seem to have missed in the video. That was in the true candidates, but I'm not sure if that was in the logical candidates. So there could have been something easier that I was just completely missing or glossed over. So if there was something, I apologize, but yeah, this is not working, and I didn't want to continue with it. So we'll continue with something else now. That's not good. I don't think that is what we wanted to see from this deduction. We have put very little. Ugh, just want to get rid of this. This is also why I don't do this type of bifurcating, because doing this is corner
Yeah, that's too
is bad.
painful to watch.
I really like this thermometer. The rest of them kind of suck. So we're just going to clear that. We're going to do a solution path on that. I'm going to get rid of that, put in a 3-7. See where that gets us. Okay, it gets us to here. Now, let's look here. So this thermometer, which is very interesting, will be our disambiguating thermometer. And we know that this, I think that we can use that as a disambiguating thermometer. This thermometer is okay. Maybe this box needs difference. Like, throw in that thermometer. Let's just do a 3 here. Good. Okay, so that's good. That should disambiguate the
That's really
two
weird.
solutions. I don't mind this thermometer, so let's just keep it. Don't want to do any more.
I don't actually understand that. Let's go back here for a second and just look at that. So if I remove this thermometer, I'm told that that has a unique solution. Well, maybe we'll get rid of that red band. So then if I put this in, that doesn't work. So, weird. Very weird. So this thermometer does do something, but I
Thermometers. I
I
want
don't
to
know.
maybe do a
It doesn't do enough
Renban. Maybe
to be
here.
recognized for what it does.
Something that isn't going to interrupt the path. Maybe like that. Then sometimes I like to include logical candidates. Okay, this is a logical path apparently. So we'll just we'll do the solution path without the 7. Don't do that. Get rid of the 7, solution path. Okay, good. Now 3, 7,
Good.
solution path. Okay. Hopefully, now if I go in and remove the end line, and that doesn't give me anything interesting, more probably in all those here. Either go If
So I think
this
I
is a
end up
4 or 6,
resolving it, and then the finishing the
flips.
details is just sort of typing in the title and typing in the rules, and that's it.
Digits.
So I don't have much to say other than that. I thought this would be an interesting idea for a little a little stream while I'm getting some other stuff prepared. Yeah, I'm preparing for the Setter Spotlight series to come in and probably take over the weekly schedule. But yeah, we'll be scheduling those and hopefully getting everything worked out for those soon. Um, yeah, I will let you guys know what's going on with that stuff, and hopefully we'll have another speed setting competition sort of soon. I started to sort of probe for engagement. I know that I put out a Discord poll thing asking if anyone who's interested in speed setting participation and speed setting hosting. So if you guys are interested in that, please do sign up there. But otherwise, yeah, I'll talk to you later. Uh, Subscribe, like, all that stuff. I know this is just me watching one of my own videos, so it's not that much of an exciting stream, but I hope you got a little bit out of it. We talked about a lot of things, and I was very opinionated on some topics and less opinionated on other topics. And I'm not ashamed of this video. I think it has some good points, and it's definitely an interesting puzzle. So interesting things can come out of less coherent workflow for sure. But anyways, take care and have a good rest of your day.